over how to use the RPG map effects plugin that I've developed. It's designed specifically to help GMs, DMs manage on-screen effects for tabletop role-playing games, where you're utilizing either like an overhead projector or a gaming table with a television built into it or something to that effect. A lot of GMs use OBS Studio already to do their projections. And what this does is it makes managing entities on those projections much easier. And let me show you what I mean by entities. So first I'm just going to show you how to open it. You can click on Tools, click RPG Map Effects, and it'll open a new window. And in that new window you'll have this. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll be able to choose which map you want. So I've got Canyon 1 and Canyon 2 loaded. These are maps that I'm using in one of my campaigns. They're just the same. They're actually the same battle map that is set up in different alignment. And I'll show you how that's done when we get back to the setting up your maps and effects. But I'm going to go over a few of the other options while we're on this screen. So you can show the grid, and you can edit the grid manually. Like if you want it to be 42 pixels, you can have it 42 pixels and it'll be 42 pixels. It goes up and down by tens, but you can manually edit it. You can change the line color of that grid. So let's say because this is mostly red and I wanted the grid to be kind of faint, I would choose like a reddish orange color and make it kind of dark. Click OK, and as you see now that grid is still there, but it's less intrusive. Now, what you're seeing on this screen is not what's projected. So as you see over here, this is what is projected. I'm in studio mode, so the left-hand side is what I'm loading and the right-hand side is what has actually happened, and you can transition between the two. So the right-hand side, you can see there's nothing projected. But if I want this grid to show up on the projection, I just have to click the grid on output. And then when I go over here, you'll see that that is now projected. That is one of the things I tried to do, is make it so that tools could be either useful to the GM or visible on the map. One of those, which is generally kind of important and which I fought with in this development for a long time to get working, is a cursor. So right now the cursor is not actually available, not actually visible on the map outside of right here. If we want the players to see the cursor on the projection or on the screen that we are sending our output to, you can right-click and click Show Cursor, and now you'll see that black cursor. And up here you can change cursors for like different situations. If you want to have a different cursor, I just put a couple of them in here just to have, you know, something that was useful for most people. The reticle crosses are, you know, generally fine for a lot of things. Whatever, it's got a regular mouse cursor. I didn't really go overboard. I just included a few in there. If there's specific ones that you need, let me know and I can roll them into the build. So that's the top line. Snap to grid, that will show up when we start using the effects. So if I click Show Grid and Snap to Grid, when I drop an effect, and if I drop the effect on the corner of the grid, it'll automatically snap to the center of the grid. Obviously, that's useful in some cases. It's not generally needed because you can pinpoint accuracy, place effects, and then move them around. So let's get to that part, because that's the really exciting part. The first thing you have is an effects template. I have two that I've made. One of them is a rift. The other one is a gas bomb. Both of these effects are effects that I have built over here on the left-hand side, and I'll show you how to build those in a moment. But for starters, we're just going to select the gas bomb. And there's a couple of things that are important about this. Where this says sequence in milliseconds with 1, 2, 3 prefixes, what that actually means is that in your effect, if I highlight my gas bomb effect, you can see I've got these little prefixes, 0, 2000, 4000. Those are milliseconds, and that is how that effect will be loaded if you want to have some dramatic effect. So for instance, with the gas bomb, the audio loads first, then the gas smoke blob, the smoke effect loads, and then the blob, which is my area of effect blob, loads. So those can happen in that order, and I can show you that because it'll load on the screen the same way it loads on the output. So what we're going to do next is we're going to, this area is for naming it. If you want to give it a special name, like if this was a smoke grenade, we'll change that to smoke grenade. Millisecond fade, that is for when we delete it, how long it takes to fade out. And then there's a lifetime in seconds. So this will say if you want to load something and have it only exist for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, however long you need it to be there. It will stay on the screen for that many seconds and then delete itself. Often it's not necessary because everything can be managed manually, and tabletop RPG games, you don't know how long you're going to take to get through a round. But it is there if you need it for whatever reason. So once we have selected our template and we have given it a name, and if we don't name it, it'll just use the default name that was in there. So if I delete this, you'll see it says gas bomb. That's what it'll show up in the list as. As a matter of fact, let's spawn the first one with a default name, and we'll spawn a second one with a custom name so you can see the difference. So to spawn it, you click this button, it turns red, it says click spawn location. That means figure out on the map where you want to spawn it, and let's say I want to spawn it right here in the middle of the path. I just click, and there's the audio, there's the smoke fading in, and there's the gas blob fading in. So that is the whole 3 different levels of fade that were included in here. So that is what this does. If I uncheck this, so we're going to go ahead and delete this, which we can clear very easily, just like that. If I uncheck that and then do this, you'll see it just pops in immediately. It doesn't do that nice fade. And you can remove this from here as well. But when you check it and you do it, it has that really nice kind of dramatic effect. Now, I said we were going to do one with a custom labels. Let's do smoke grenade. And we're going to click this and select this spot. And this one will load the same way, but you'll notice in our list here, it now says that this is a smoke grenade. Now, this is also important. You can select them by clicking on them. You have to be near the center of the effect. It's not going to do it if you do it like way out here. It doesn't know that you're near the effect. But if you're near the center of effect, it'll switch to it over here. And that gives you some options. A lot of these options are also available here, like you can show the label, or you can show the label from here. The right-clicking over here gives you even more options. You can move them. If you click move, it'll snap to your mouse, so you can move it around, and then you can drop it by clicking one more time to drop it wherever you want. These moves are visible live on the Battlemap. So if what you're seeing here happen is what's happening live, so the players can see that. They can't see your cursor unless you have your cursor hidden or shown, but they can see the moves live on the screen. So if we do show cursor and we have our little cross cursor, they could see that if we were using that while we were moving it. If we were doing this, then they could see the cursor as well. But we don't really need that, so let's hide the cursor and stop the move. So all of that seems to work the way it's supposed to, and I'm trying to see if I've missed anything. Oh, there's the rotation. So if one of your effects happened to be a character, like an NPC, then you could, and you wanted to aim it a certain direction. First you wanted to move it over here, and then you wanted to rotate it over here. You could rotate, you get this little blue arrow that follows you around, and it rotates as you rotate it. You can just pick the direction you want it to aim, and then click again to release it, and then there you go. So that's really the main point of this screen. You can drop effects and change maps. Important to note, when you do change maps, you'll see on this screen, the map just changes instantly. But if I go over here, let's go over to OBS so I can see the background. I'm going to minimize both of these and make it so you can see this. I just want to point out, this is the program screen back here. So on this program screen, if I change maps, it will respect whatever transition I have. So if I go to Canyon 2, you'll see over here it moved. If I go to Canyon 1, it moves. And this changes instantly, but this respects the transition. So let's get back into OBS and show you how to set some of these up, because this is the part where, you know, it's great, it does all these cool things, but how do you make something? So let's make something. I'm going to click the plus. I'm going to call this fx:/test. This is just going to be a test fx, and I'm going to add a image. Doesn't matter what it's called. I'm going to browse. We'll go to my pictures and we'll find some image that'll work for whatever it is we're doing. Here's one called loop. It's kind of weird looking. It's an animation. Okay, so now we have this animation. A couple of things that are going to make this effect work better when you use it. I'm going to right click it, I'm going to do a transform, and I'm going to center to the screen. That means that it's going to spawn centered. That's kind of important. The next thing I'm going to do with this image is I'm going to say that the blending mode for this image is going to be add. All right. Now, the reason that matters is if we go back to our map effects window, and as we see, it's not here, but if I click refresh, it'll show up. Now it's here, so I can click test. I'm going to go ahead and clear all, get rid of all these so I can show you this new one. And when I click here, as you'll see, it is here, and it's kind of not the direction I want it to be, so I'm going to rotate it like this. And the black is gone, and that's what that adding add to it will do. You can use screen as well, but add generally works pretty well because it's going to handle either screening or adding. You can use all the other ones, the multiply or other options for that as well, and it'll work just fine. But as you see over here, it's already see it on our output. And if I go over here and move it, you'll see it's moved on the output as well. So that's it. That's all I have to, you can add layers. So if I wanted to add an audio source, so a media source to this, and I actually have one called audio. It's the explosion sound. And I wanted this to fade in after the audio. This is where we use that naming convention. You just do this and put 2,000 milliseconds. So now we'll go back over to this. Sorry, go back over here. We're going to clear all, refresh, to make sure we get the fresh copy of it. We're going to spawn it, and there's the audio, and then it popped right in there. Why did it pop right in there? Because we do not have its transition set to fade in. So that's easy to do. We'll just right-click this and say set show transition to fade. I also tend to set the hide transition to fade as well, so that when they're deleted, they kind of fade out. It's a nice look. So now that that's done, we'll go back over to our screen. We're going to get rid of this. And then we're going to refresh to make sure we get the fresh copy, and we'll spawn another one. And now it fades in nicely. And when we delete it, it fades out nicely. So that's why you want to set those transitions. Maps are very, very similar. We can add a scene, and we'll call it map test. And now we have a scene called map test. I can add an image to this. Doesn't matter what image I add. I can, pick anything I want. I don't even know if I have anything. Here's actually, let's go over here. On my desktop, I know I have some stuff that'll work pretty well. So I actually have a gaming folder here with all of my Battlemap stuff in it, and these are some different, we'll do Rocky Path. So we're going to open that up. So there's another one that we can use as a Battlemap. Doesn't fit, so we'll stretch it out a little bit, make it fit nicely. Now we have a Rocky Path. We can use that as a Battlemap. It's already called map. which means all we have to do is go over to our application here. It's not in the list, but if I click refresh, it's now in the list. And there's our Rocky Path battle map. Important to note, so if I'm going to put a gas bomb on here, I'm going to go over here to Canyon. I'm going to put that weird thing we just created on here. And the reason I'm doing that is to show you that these are managed per map. So if I go back to test, you'll see there's a gas bomb. We have a gas bomb over here. And if I go back to Canyon, you'll see there's a FX test, and we have a test thing over here. So that's pretty much how you do it. There's not a lot involved. It's really easy. You just use these little, if you have anything else in here that you're using, like I've got these intro scenes that exist, they don't have a prefix. They don't have map. They don't have FX. So they're not going to show up in the plugin. They're just not going to be there. So that's really pretty much it. There's not a lot else going on. Remember that if you do want a transition to be specific, a specific type of transition, then you can use you can set that transition, you can override those transitions, and the plugin will respect those transitions. You'll see right here, if you watch this area right here, the program map, when I switch to test, it uses the move transition, and that is because over here in test, move is the transition. If I set that to fade and refresh this, and I go back to Canyon, you'll see, and go back to test, you'll see that it now does a fade transition instead. So those are pretty much all the things I can think to show you about the plugin at the moment. If you do have any questions, please obviously comment them in the comment section. If you have suggestions or other things that you'd like to see in the plugin, let me know. I'll see if I can include them. There's a download link in the comments, or in the description actually, and yeah, just let me know what you think.